Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am Kaythebookworm, and in today's episode, I have another author spotlight. I found this lady on Facebook. I am a member of her reading group, and I actually found her during the holiday season because she has a series called the Be Mine season, or the Be Mine series. So her first book of the series is Be Mine for Christmas. Then it goes to Be Mine for New Year's, Be Mine for Valentine's Day. And then the one I think that wraps it up is My Heart to Yours. And she also read another book called Split Marriage. I believe that's what it's called. It was a novelette, but it was really good too. So I have with me Monae Nicole today. So how are you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So my first two questions are, I asked everyone, how did you get started and why did you get started?
I got started because I read a book that wasn't that good to me. And I was talking about it with a friend of mine, and he was like, "Well, why don't you try writing a book?" And I thought about it, and then I talked to a couple other friends of mine. One is the author, and then the other ones were just like we were just in a group that just read a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided to give it a try. And here we are now. But I love it. Like I never thought I would write books. I always liked to read, but writing wasn't something I thought I would do. Not whole books. Like I would write short stories from time to time or poems, but not a whole book to put out in the world. And now I can't see myself not writing.
That's good. So I see that you are a part of the B.Love Publications. I've interviewed
Yes.
your pen sister, Mel Dahl. Shout out to her. South Carolina native, like me.
Yes.
Love her. And also Kimberly Brown. Haven't interviewed her yet, but I love her work as well. How is B.Love as a publisher?
Great. Honestly, my very first book, I released it independently, but I had no clue what I was doing. So it didn't do as well. It didn't do well at all, really. And then I knew that I probably needed a publisher. And I was already a fan of BLP. And so I'm like, if I sign with a publisher, that's who I'm going with. And I sat with it for a while because my life at the time didn't allow much time to write. So I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere and I'm put on these deadlines or anything like that. And so I talked to somebody who was signed with her at the time, and they said nothing but good things about her. And so I took my original book off of Amazon. I submitted to her. We went over it, added some things or whatever. And she is like dope. There's lessons to be learned. She wants you to win, but she doesn't force you to produce if you can't produce. Like she's not, you know what I'm saying? She's not like, you have to have this, and that. She gives you the tools for what you need to, succeed, but it's up to you to do the work. So I love her. I would not see myself going to another publisher at this point, probably ever in life. If I left BLP, it would be just to go independent, and I don't see myself even leaving anytime soon because I'm still learning. And so, and the love between the BLP family as a whole, like you can't, I don't think you could get that anywhere else, because the support is unmatched, and I love it there.
That's good. I see on Facebook all the time. You guys really, really support. You got like support. It's definitely like a sisterhood, and I think that's a dope thing. So, especially when you're in a publishing company, especially when you're with Black women, when they have a lot of stereotypes of like wanting to like tear each other down, and you guys are nothing like that. So I think that
exactly.
Amazing. So let's get into your Be Mine series because I love it. Right. If I had to choose, my favorite one would be Mine for Valentine's Day. And then even though I don't think it's a part of the Me Mine, I think it's like a spinoff. Yours, My Heart to Yours.
Yes. So originally Be Mine for Christmas was supposed to be something different. It was really supposed to be Zari and her neighbor, the original neighbor Bay, but it just went somewhere else. And then the other two wasn't supposed to happen at all.
Really?
Yeah, I had no plans of it. But when I wrote Be Mine for Christmas and I threw the little part about Trey and Alyssa in there, a friend of mine, Kima B, because she always
Shout out to Kima.
Yeah, she was like, well, they need a story. And I was just like, I don't know. So I sat down with it, came up with a story for them. And then it was like, well, now Aaron and Chelsea needs a story. And so, yeah, I wound up from one book that wasn't even supposed to turn out the way it did to two more in that. And then the spinoff, which again wasn't part of the plan. I just happened to be on Instagram one day and I saw a male florist. And I was like, you don't see male florists, especially not straight male florists. Yeah. So I was like, well, maybe I could do something with this. So literally, like, at the end of me writing Be Mine for Valentine's Day is when the thought popped into my head. So I'm like, I have to find a way to add Lola and Kamari in there some type of way, just like a little gem to like they might be coming next. There is one more book.
I know, and I'm excited.
Yeah, again, none of these were planned. So Cherished by a Rose, that should be out this Thursday.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm excited for that. And then yeah, but I'm working on something totally different right now. There may be another holiday book, not sure. I have a thought swirling in my head for around Christmas time, like Thanksgiving or Christmas, but I'm not sure yet. Okay. Which may or may not be all 5 couples. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Yeah, so who knows?
I think I can about your work that I do like, even though, like you said, the books weren't supposed to be coming, you set them up so perfectly that I wouldn't be surprised if another writer, like another reader, was like, why don't you have a book like this? Because when you did Trey and Alyssa book, and Aaron is Alyssa's sister and Trey is Aaron, one of his best friends, the way you set that up perfectly was like, I want a story about Aaron. I want to know why he was in jail. I want to know why Chelsea was defensive with when it comes to Aaron, and you find out why she was like that. It was, in my opinion, I think it was wrong. Cutting it off completely because of that. I think he should have known.
Right.
Form of communication, but I like the way that you do like layer up the characters to the point where you want their own story.
Yeah, and that's never the plan though. It's like I just try to throw in a friend or a sibling just to, give the character, have them be more realistic. And then somehow the friend or the sibling has their own story to tell. I'm like, you're not supposed to be that important. So, I mean, it's fun though, because I wind up with more books than I thought. So it's not a bad thing. It's just, I've never really looked at myself as writing a series, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like, I probably won't do like a to be continued type of series. I just don't have the patience for it. But I like the books that it can be read as a standalone, but it is a better experience when you read them together. So yeah, it's just never really part of the plan, like at all. But it tends to work, I guess.
So do you have any details for somebody who hasn't read the book that's coming out Thursday? Do you encourage them to read your the first one with Kamari and what's the girl name? Lori first?
Lola.
First to read that first and then read the second, like the kind of the spin-off to that book?
That's the plan. Honestly, I'm still kind of like, I don't know. Like, to me, it's not necessary. But I do try to encourage people to go back to the original story that these characters are introduced in. But Johari and Mahogany in the new book, they didn't have like big parts.
Yeah.
So it's not like necessary, but I think it does make the experience a little better. But it's okay. It's okay if you don't read the first book, but I encourage it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I have a question. What would you say would be the hardest thing about writing to you?
Starting the story. For some reason, I never know. Like, I'll have a whole idea. I'll have a summary or outline, but it's still like, what point do we start the story? How do we start the story? Because some people, like, I've had books where some people, the story started while I was at work or conversations with somebody or whatever. Like, they all just, it tends to be different. So it's just like figuring out where to begin. I never really know where I want to begin sometimes. And then sometimes the ending. Because the ending is like, did I cover everything? Is there more? So, and then it's like, sometimes I don't want to part with the people because I feel like, you get so engrossed in your story. These are your people. And then it's like, oh no, I got to let y'all go now to more people. So yeah, it's the beginning and the end. But I think the beginning is the hardest for me. That first 10K, I'm like, man. But then after, it's usually pretty good until the end. And just making sure, questions were answered and, you did what you set out to do. Because at the end of the day, everybody's not going to like it. Somebody's not going to agree with something. And I mean, it is what it is. You can't please everybody. It's not my story to tell. It's these characters' story to tell. And so whatever they choose to do, that's what they do. Because sometimes I'm like, this wasn't supposed to be happening, y'all. What are we doing here? So, I mean, but that, to me, that's the joy in it. The unexpected, even as the author. So, yeah.
Then you have a plan and you're like, all right, this is how this story is going to go. And then when you're starting writing the characters, like, oh, you're going this way.
Exactly.
With me that way. I know, like I tell people all the time, characters know more than you know.
Right.
When you're in the focus of wanting to finish a book, they know more than you. So if you could say, oh yeah, this is what I don't outline, I hate it, I freaking despise it, because I outlined one book and I had this whole thing of how I wanted to go. Started writing it, went a whole different direction.
Right. Well, I've learned because when I first started like using outlines, I will follow it to a T. But then it's like you're forcing the story because your character is saying, no, we don't want to do this, but you're trying to make us do this. So for me, the outline is a guide. It helps in case you get, thrown off or you get a little writer's block. You could kind of get yourself back in that groove, but you don't have to use the outline the way you originally planned. It helps to kind of keep track. But again, if they go off track, you just got to go with them, and wherever they go, you go, and then tie it all up in a nice little bow at the end and
very true,
put it out for the world.
Sometimes those be the best books too. Sometimes
they do
be the best seller.
Because so for like right now, my most popular book is Your Mind. And Your Mind had no outline. It had it really was just a thought I had when I was in Vegas.
Yeah.
I was in Vegas. I had just thought I was gonna just make it a short story and call it a day. But again, B was like, no, this needs to be a whole story. So then I sat down and I thought about it. I wrote a summary of what I wanted, of like how I thought it should go. But most of it was really I just free wrote the whole thing. And to this day, it is my most popular book. It's my favorite book right now, because I think what it was with that one, it was less women's fiction. It was just more fun to me.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Savannah had her little issue with her boyfriend, but it didn't focus on it.
Yeah.
So I think it was just more fun. Not to say the other ones aren't.
Yeah.
But, some of my other books, they kind of are more women's fiction. And then there's the love story. So that women's fiction part, sometimes it's a little harder to write, but I still feel the stories are necessary. So I'm still write them. Like, I like them, but to be able to just do what I did with Your Mind, it just put me in a different mind frame at the time. It was just fun. I mean, you're in Vegas, you meet a man and
see where it takes you.
And I was in Vegas looking for a man to see where it takes me. It didn't take me nowhere though.
Speaking of different genres, would you write anything outside, like more like erotica, paranormal, YA?
So I would like to do actually all three of those. I dabbled a little in like mystery suspense when I did Finding Candy last year in October. And that was just something, part of that experience in that book was something that happened to me. Because I do Instacart. And so one night, like around Halloween, I encountered like this weird family. It was so weird.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I'm like, well, what if I would have got kidnapped? So then before you know it, this whole story is flowing through my head. And so Finding Candy came from that weird interaction with this family. But it's kind of like a murder. I mean, not murder. It's kind of like a suspense mystery type of thing. Because it's like, well, what happened? Why is this happening? And it still ended up in a love story because I just love. So I feel like no matter what I do, there has to be a love story in the end. Erotica, some people like to think that or say that Enticed by His Charm and Your Mind are on that erotica level. I don't know. They were definitely more erotic than the rest. So I guess paranormal, I do want to dabble in that. I have a partial idea for something. I just haven't figured out the story for that yet. And I may do a YA at some point. Like I think I have some college kids.
Oh, that sounds fun.
I have to figure out how I want to do it, because I know what I write. And I'm like, my daughter's a college kid. So I don't want to associate like how I may or may not write these characters with my daughter. So it's like, I don't know. I have set a semi idea. I just hope they don't turn too nasty. And so yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is a thought, because one of my independent releases I had 2 years ago, they do have the male character had a college age sister. And so there's supposed to be at some point another book regarding his brother. and then their sister. But again, who knows? Because my mind, I would have this whole, like right now, I have the rest of the year planned out on what I'm writing, but who knows how it's going to go.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it.
That is very true. That is
yeah.
very true, because you never know what could come out of your head.
Exactly.
I totally agree with you on that. So before we get out of here, I asked this question to everyone. If a reader or upcoming author wants to get to your level, what advice would you give that person? And do not say just right.
I'm not. Love what you do. Because you don't want to have your writing feel like it's another job. Because I feel like when you do that, it portrays a little in your stories. And I think me personally, I kind of started that way. I liked it, but I didn't love it. So it was like I wrote when I felt like writing, and to me, my beginning stories weren't as, I wouldn't say authentic, but my heart wasn't fully in it like it is now.
Yeah.
So you have to love it. Like, don't just try to, you see somebody else making all this money off of it. Don't think that's what you're going to get, because a lot of times we don't.
Yep.
A lot of times we don't. I mean, you may get lucky and get that one book that puts you out there, but then you could wind up doing 10 more that is just decent. You know what I'm saying? So don't look at it for the money. You have to look at it as something that you want to do as a passion, and make time for it. You have to sacrifice. It's a sacrifice, because while your friends and your family are out doing whatever they're doing, you're at home trying to push this book out, because these characters won't stop, for one, and you want to get it out there. So it's a sacrifice. And if you can learn how to sacrifice, and if it's a passion for you, you make your passion a priority. That was one of the many gems that B has taught us. Make your passion a priority. And now that I make it a priority, I have been way more consistent. I have learned to really embody my characters more. Because before, like I said, I wrote whenever I had a chance. But I made a decision last year not to go back to my regular job, because I wanted to write full time.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, I don't have somebody that can help me financially like that. So I still have to work. So I just found a way to make money on my time. Gotcha. So I can still write until my books get me to where I need them to get me. I'm still trying to get there. So yeah, you just have to have a goal in mind, but know that you may not reach it when you want to reach it. And also, one of the big things that I've learned, and I'm still learning, give yourself grace. You have to give yourself grace, because there's going to be days where, for whatever reason, you may not want to write. Maybe, you're not feeling well, your kid's not feeling well, whatever, just whatever in life. And you have to give yourself that grace, like, okay, I didn't write today, but maybe I'll write tomorrow, and maybe I'll do even better tomorrow. Who knows? Exactly. Yeah. But you have to give yourself grace and take time for yourself. Step away. If you need to step away from social media, especially social media, because you'll get on there, you'll see all these people, all these different authors that's, talking about their books being number one and they're getting this and they're getting that, and you may not get it, and it can be discouraging. But at the same time, you have to put in the work, and also know your target audience.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Knowing your target audience is a big one, and have a vision of what you want your brand to be known as. And so whatever you feel most comfortable with writing, learn your lane. That's what I was trying to say. Learn your lane first before you do all this other stuff outside of what you're used to. So like for me, I mainly write women's fiction and love stories. So I'm trying to dominate that first. And so when I build that platform, when I decide to do something else, all those people that I have gotten are ready to read my books. I have a way higher chance of them reading something that might be out of the norm for me, but they still may give it a try. So yeah, grace, patience, time for yourself, and discipline. Like a lot of discipline. Don't overdo it to where you're losing sleep either, though, because I know for me, if I'm too tired, I can't write.
Yeah,
it's just not going to work. So when my body says rest, then you got to rest. You have to take that rest, because it shows in your work when you're not 100% into it. So,
y'all, those are good tips. I better write them down, because I sure enough got these in my brain.
And listen, it's hard. Like this business is hard, and people think like, oh, it's easy to write a book. It's not. It's not. And then imagine when you're even 2, 3, 4, 5, multiple books in. Like the more you write, it gets easier to write it. But then it's like, well, did I say this before?
Yeah.
In another book? Because I'm technically writing book 22 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, I have to make sure that my storyline is different from whatever else I wrote. Make sure I'm not repeating something I might have said before. It's tough. It's tough. And we sacrifice so much more than people think we do. Because it's mental. You know, it's a mental job, and sometimes mental fatigue is worse than physical fatigue.
Yeah, that's true. I do agree with you on that.
So you just have to focus, take time for yourself, and be disciplined, and know what you want. Know what you want, but understand that just because you want it, it may not come when you want it, but it will come. I think for everybody, there's a time. Each person will get their time. It just takes some of us longer than others. And that's okay. You have to be okay with that, though, because if not, you're not going to love it anymore. So, yeah.
Well, Monae Nicole, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, guys, make sure you read her books. Read my favorite series of hers. I'm definitely going to be dabbling into more of your series, for sure. Please. But yes, guys, I'll leave all her information below. I'll leave all my information below. And until next time, have faith, have confidence, love you, always, always be you, and read what you love and write what you want to read. Bye.
I love that. Bye.